Yeah, jumpin', them boys up to something. They just spent like 2 or 3 weeks out the country. Them boys up to something, they just not just bluffing. You don't have to call, I hear my dance like Usher, ooh.
Every fall, roughly 2.2 million college freshmen enroll in colleges. One thing all these students have in common is they all are eager to begin their new lives. This means new responsibilities, interests, and friends. With these new environments comes a unique atmosphere. College campuses are the only places where young people leave their homes for the first times in their lives and are told to learn, mingle, and most importantly, grow. With this growth comes discomfort. The specific discomfort and social issue that I have chosen to highlight is the issue of race, discrimination, and segregation in college campus social interactions both inside and outside of Greek life. Firstly, I want to describe what race means on college campuses. One of the most important ideas behind race on college campuses is that race is often associated with social class. One might think that social class does not matter once you're on campus, or that prestigious universities across the country present level playing fields once students are accepted. While universities try their best to confirm this, it's simply not true. A student of color from a generally poor background is presented different challenges from a wealthier student. This stems from the moment the student is accepted, when they are forced to worry over financial aid, and to the social decisions that they are forced to make once on campus, whether it be over food or whether or not they can afford to go out with their friends on a given night. This and other contributing factors might be why students of color are often excluded from many social circles, specifically Greek letter organizations. What Greek letter organizations are sororities and fraternities that exist on college campuses. However, many people don't realize how segregated these organizations still are. In fact, a Princeton study on the demographic data of its own Greek system shows that white and higher income students are much more likely to join fraternities and sororities. 77% of sorority members and 73% of fraternity members were white, compared to only 47% of the student body. 30% of fraternity members and 19% of sorority members were legacy admits, and over 60% came from private high schools. Less than 5% of Princeton Greek members were from lower or middle class families. This means that over 95% were from the richest corner of America, and 25% of Greek members were from the top 1% of social classes. This has led to what has been described as WGLOs, or white Greek letter organizations. These organizations, of course, are not outwardly white, but it was just in 2013 that a black young lady from the University of Alabama received no bids from any of the 16 Panhellenic sororities on her campus during her recruitment. However, this young lady was what any sorority would describe as an optimal candidate. With a 4.3 high school GPA and awards as a salutatorian of her graduating class, it appears that she would have more than enough on her resume. When that's coupled with the fact that her family has deep roots in local, state, and public service and a direct link to the University of Alabama, she seems like a surefire candidate. Another example of the racial issues tied to WGLOs is their often openly racist cultures. In 2015, there was a viral video of the Oklahoma University chapter of Sigma Alpha Epsilon chanting, "There will never be a nigger SAE."
Fraternity at the University of Oklahoma shut down after a video surfaced appearing to show its members using a racist chant. The national chapter of the frat moved fast to cut it off. The university is promising to take action as well.
There'll never be a nigger SAE. There'll never be a nigger SAE. You're hanging from a tree, but it'll never stop with me. There will never be.
In February 2014, the University of Mississippi chapter Sigma Phi Epsilon was suspended after 3 of its members tied a noose around the statue of James Meredith, the university's first black student. These are just a few examples of the racist ideals that are often found in the historically white Greek organizations that Matthew Hughey, an associate professor of sociology at the University of Connecticut who studies racial dynamics in American Greek life, goes as far as to call a form of American apartheid. The exclusivity of these organizations is in a sense a form of oppression, but not allowing blacks, Hispanics, and even Asians and Middle Eastern people to join these fraternities, they lose many powerful networking opportunities. The true exclusivity that Greek life offers is shown in the numbers collected by a 2010 study. Even though no more than 3% of the U.S. population has ever been a white Greek letter organization member, from 1900 to 2005, 63% of the U.S. president and cabinet members have been fraternity or sorority members. 85% of Supreme Court justices have been fraternity or sorority members, and 75% of senators have been fraternity or sorority members. Another interesting fact, among these politicians, 90% of them share the same race. white. Nonetheless, this shows the true networking exclusivity that these white Greek letter organizations can offer to privileged members. These race and social classifications, unfortunately, are present in other college and university atmospheres outside of the frat house. Students of color report feelings of inferiority on college campuses due to their race. A 2000 study on the racial climate on campuses says that these situations are classified by a three-step pattern. First, the authors write that one group believes itself to be superior. They view the other group as inferior. This can be shown through treatment in dormitory settings, social circles, or even in classrooms. One black student had this quote: "I was doing really well in the class. Math is one of my strong suits. We took a first quiz and I got like a 95. The professor was like, 'Come into my office. We need to talk.' And I was like, 'Okay.' I just thought I was going to be told, 'Great job.' But he said, 'We think you've cheated. We just don't know. So we think we're going to make you take the exam again.' And I took it again with the graduate student instructor in the room and just myself. I got 98 on the exam." Another African American student from a different university commented on his experience of studying while being black. He says, "In a technical field, as an engineer, oftentimes you feel like other students don't want to approach black students for their groups, especially when they think blacks just aren't as technically smart as maybe an Asian student. And I'll notice they make some study groups and ask you last. So you feel more of a need to establish yourself. You need to prove yourself in a sense." These two quotes lead to the next step in the pattern that researchers found. The group that views themselves as superior has the power to carry out the racist behavior. Or in other words, the wealthier, more socially affluent students find themselves able to carry out what would be classified as racist behavior. This can be both intentional and unintentional. It could be as simple as only associating with white students because they, quote unquote, seem smarter, or as intentional as throwing a blackface party such as the one students of the University of Florida threw in 2012. The last element that researchers found on college campuses is that ultimately racism affects multiple racial and ethnic groups. As a result, not only African Americans but other races feel the effects of social oppression both inside and outside of Greek life on campus. How would an ideal society fix this? First and foremost, we as a socially ethical society must identify these issues. We must see that white Greek letter organizations have an issue with racism and classism and work to further identify these issues. One way we can do this step is by breaking down the society of secrecy that is often associated with white Greek letter organizations. We'll be able to see inside of these organizations and see where these issues stem from and understand their complexities. However, in order to do this, we must understand that these issues are deep-rooted and are often more complex than they appear. By doing this, we will begin our first step towards correcting the social race structure on college campuses. The next step my society will take is to fix these racial issues to fix these racial issues inside of WGLOs and on campus would be to recognize the race differences of individuals. This is one of the most important steps because if campus societies fail to see that individuals do in fact have racial and consequently cultural differences, separate cultures will never be able to be embraced and united on campus. This is essentially the opposite of a colorblind approach. Through my proposed approach, individuals and groups will see that people have different races, whatever they be, and will begin to understand the different cultures. This will help in the fear and mistrust that races have in one another that often lead to racist views. This is just another important step that will lead to social and racial unification on campus. The next step an ideal society should take after identifying varying races and cultures in individuals is to embrace these cultures, or as I describe it, spread an ethic of love. This ethic of love is the embodiment of social embracement on campus. People will spread the word about other cultures and how unique and interesting they are based on their newfound experiences. Students and other people involved on campus should go on to open their arms and ultimately invite people that would have previously seen outsiders into groups, that would have previously been seen as outsiders into groups, and embrace and build off each other's differences. This will create a more comfortable and fulfilling social environment not only for minorities, but for other majority groups as well. The final step in moving forward from the current state of social segregation and racism is using these newfound ideals of acceptance and love to unify campuses as one accepting group. By no means does this mean that all students on campus have to be friends with one another, but it does mean that the student body needs to unify as an accepting and loving community. It is important that students build their own accepting campus culture so that it may be passed down from generation to generation.
You hit the nail